The stench of sulfur and decay make Gerhard wish for a breath of fresh air. As a Prussian general, Gerhard is used to smelling death. It is a hazard of being a soldier, but today is different. The smell makes his stomach churn like rotten butter, and he swallows hard, trying not to lose his lunch. Today hasn't been a fight, it's been a slaughter. He tips his head back to try to get a glimpse of the sun, but the haze of the battlefield makes it impossible. His army should have won. His soldiers were obedient and well trained in all the military arts. Shooting, marching, hand-to-hand combat, yet they had been no match for the Napoleon army. Across the battlefield, Gerhard sees the French flag rise through the smoke. His eyes linger on it, and the realization sinks in that his army has been beat. Not by circumstance, not for lack of courage, but by strategy. Gerhard is an honest man, a logical man. He sees the truth of the battle. His men were not prepared for this new enemy. The heaviness of the failure makes his heart feel like an anchor falling to the ocean floor. He wants to scream, to cry, to rage, but his body feels numb. His mind, however, is moving quickly. His jaw tightens and he promises himself that this will never happen again. He would train and educate his men differently, and the next time he saw the French on the battlefield, he would win. And it was this moment, this decision, that would change education forever. General Gerhard von Scharnhorst wasn't your average military leader. Born in 1755, he hadn't grown up in a wealthy family, but rather had risen through the ranks through his skills and study, an unusual accomplishment for the Prussian military system of the 1800s, where military leaders were almost exclusively selected from noble families. At an early age, Gerhard wasn't just interested in fighting as a soldier, but on how battles were won and lost. And this is where the Battle of Jena Auerstedt in 1806 changed not only him, but the future of Prussian military education, and later, education as a whole. The battle was a cautionary tale of being rooted so firmly in what used to work that progress almost defeats a country completely. Up to this point, Prussian military strategy followed the system created by Frederick the Great. The strategy relied heavily on more antiquated military techniques. Soldiers fought in organized lines, using predictable battle strategies and giving leadership to those of noble rank. And this method had given the country success in the 7 Years' War. But in 1806, everything changed. The Prussians were facing a new kind of enemy in Napoleon Bonaparte, an enemy that could adapt more quickly and played by a new set of rules. Napoleon divided his army into groups that he called corps. Each corps had infantry, cavalry, and artillery, and each corps could fight independently as well as supporting the whole army. So instead of one giant hard-to-move army like the Prussians, Napoleon had multiple corps that could move quickly and attack from all angles. While the Prussians were marching in organized straight lines, Napoleon structured his army so that each could operate independently and in a variety of formations. And in 1806, Prussia met this Napoleon force with a tragic outcome in the battles of Jena Auerstedt. It was these battles that Gerhard realized a hard truth. His Prussian armies were no match for this new enemy. He realizes it's not about the loyalty, bravery, or courage that the Prussian armies may be lacking, but rather a strategic disadvantage from outdated training and military structure. And so he begins to design a military educational system, and the start of the Prussian educational system begins. A system that would not only change Prussia, but much of the future world. 2 years after that fateful moment on the battlefield, Gerhard is now sitting in the seats of the Berlin Academy. He looks around the aisles to see Prussia's most influential individuals, university members, middle-class professionals, and even politicians. Everyone is here to listen to the address to the German nation. The air is heavy with expectation. The Prussians know things must change if their nation is to survive. And it is in this address that the vision of the country will be given. Gerhard leans back in his seat, trying to find a more comfortable position. As Johann Fichte takes the podium, the room applauds. Fichte, the famous philosopher, begins his address. Fichte says the nation must be rebuilt through education, that this schooling should shape disciplined, moral citizens, and that this education must also create a national identity. Gerhard's head is nodding in agreement, as many of Fichte's sentiments echo his own. As the speech comes to a close, Gerhard feels the people beside him rise to their feet as the deafening applause fills the auditorium. With the support of other Prussian leaders, he would build a new way of educating his military, and now he knew the Prussian people would support him in this endeavor. Gerhard quickly begins to establish a new educational system for his military, designing a learning program based on these new ideals. Gerhard realizes that having skilled military men that could obey precise orders and stay in exact formations is not enough. The men must also be able to think critically and adapt to unexpected situations. Gerhard learns from Napoleon's corps' ability to think more independently. He decides every soldier needs a more broad education that includes the study of history and military schooling. Gerhard sees the old system as aristocratic and rigid. Leadership is given by birth rather than by merit. Gerhard also recognizes the strength of Napoleon's army is rooted in a common ideology of French nationalism, shaped by the more recent French Revolution. The Napoleon soldiers are drawn from the whole nation and given lateral movement by merit. In contrast, Prussia's army at the time is comprised of a variety of soldiers, with up to half including prisoners of war pressed into service and recruits that have been enticed or coerced. Gerhard realizes common nationalist ideology is a bedrock to creating a cohesive military. Gerhard believed the state should cultivate educated, capable citizens. Education should develop intellect, character, and civic responsibility. He emphasized analytic thinking, formal schooling, and strategic study. Eventually, these beliefs evolved into the Prussian War Academy. In 1815, the Prussian forces again meet with Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo. This time, the Prussian soldiers are prepared. With their newfound strategies developed from the Prussian War Academy, the army is victorious. In 1843, 37 years after the Battle of Jena Auerstedt, Horace Mann, sometimes known as the father of American education, travels to Europe to study the Prussian model of education. He is impressed with the structured curriculum, graded classrooms by age, centralized administration, and professional teacher training. He also sees how the Prussian school system supports civic virtue and believes school can create respect for laws and encourage students to grow into informed and responsible adults. Mann brings back all his findings about the model to the United States, and soon this Prussian model is being implemented into public common schools. Horace Mann had good intentions. In his writings, he affirms his goal to create democratic equality, saying, quote, "Education is the great equalizer of the conditions of men." Mann made education more universal, organized, and professional by adopting this Prussian model in the United States. But there was a bit of hypocrisy in using this model to create a better democracy. The Prussian model was built on control, moral shaping, and cultural pressure, and the history of the model is based on a military loss and an offshoot of a military system. The Prussian system had its benefits. It was efficient, organized, and for the time it was created, it was progress. In 1800s Prussia, it supported merit-based leadership to challenge the aristocratic system. It also gave soldiers a wider intellect with which not only to take orders, but to think for themselves strategically. But was it the right educational system for a budding nation built on the principles of liberty and freedom? Is forcing students into democratic thinking in its own way undemocratic? Is it possible America needed an educational system that truly mimicked what it was trying to create? If its goal was a continued democracy, it needed an educational system that taught its students not so much what to think, but rather how. In short, the Prussian military model that Horace Mann stumbled upon may have looked neat, tidy, and even a little shiny. But was it really what America needed? And it begs the question, what would have happened if the US hadn't adopted the Prussian system? Or if the Prussian system hadn't been created by General Gerhard in the first place? Thanks for watching Educator University. I'm Annie. If you like this video, you might also like this one.